How's it going, everyone? My name is Michael SK, and welcome back to Chaos at Noah. We're trapped. We are imprisoned here in our own container house by Yua, who has finally cracked. She is totally lost her mind here and is 1,000%, not even 100%, 1,000% sure that Shogun resides within Nishijo Takumi, which it's close. Like she was close to be completely honest on who Shogun was, but Shogun, by the way, is not the culprit behind the new generation madness. So I guess props to those with the church for making her and others believe that, you know, maybe it is Takumi or somebody related, but nope. But anyways, let us see here what will happen now. That it has been like maybe 2 days or so, if maybe forever. It feels like it's been forever since Takumi has been imprisoned here. So let's see what will happen now. How will Takumi escape this? How can we get away from her? And maybe we can even convince her that Takumi is not the culprit here. As soon as I woke up, I knew something was off. Like something was missing. Still half asleep, I looked around my room. I tried to stand up, but the rope coiled around my wrist dug in deep, and the sheer pain stopped me in my tracks. The pain immediately reminded me that I was tied up, and the one that had done so was Yua. Oh, Yua wasn't here. So that's what had felt off. I was the only one in the room. Where had she gone? Had she gone to make food or to use the bathroom? I didn't know how many days it had been since Yua locked me in here. Again, it does feel like it's been forever. The whole last episode really just dragged on because whenever there's like any form of just being unable to leave or physically go somewhere else for the main character and we're just stuck in one scene, it just kind of drags on. But what I did know was that neither of us had been to school the entire time. We only went outside to use the bathroom or cook something. I wasn't even allowed to take a shower. I let out a heavy sigh. Yua came back, or should come back in a moment now. And when she did, she would start watching me all over again. Had Yua always been this stubborn? Or was it the hatred and regret that she felt from her sister's death that made her start acting this way? Regardless, how could I make her understand that I wasn't Shogun? Maybe I should show her the messages the Shogun had sent me, if they were still on my PC anyway. But let's be honest, we were long past that. Yua was fully devoted to the delusional bullshit that she had come up with, and I doubted that she'd believe me even if I did show them to her. I needed something more concrete, something to convince her that Shogun and I were two completely different people. If only he would show up here, well, then there'd be no denying it. That'd kinda suck for me if that happened, though. I didn't want him anywhere near me, and besides, if he came to my base, he'd probably be to kill me.
ねえねえ、タッキー、逃げた方がいいよ。あたし、あんな思い込み激しいストーカー女に、これ以上タッキーがいじめられるのを見たくないもん。
Yeah, it's either escape or we have to convince her. Thank you, Sarah. But I can't run. I can't untie myself on my own. I'd obviously already made my fair share of attempts to escape, but my struggle had proved futile. Yua's knots were tight, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't get them to budge.
あたしが3次元になれたら、今すぐタッキーを助けに行くのにな。
I don't know. As great as escaping sounds on paper, Sarah, I think just doing whatever she says like I've been doing is the far safer option. If I tried to escape and failed, it could make Yua go berserk. Whenever Yua lost her temper, it was crazy how scary she got. So I was gonna do everything I could not to provoke her.
自分の命を守るために一番いい方法をちゃんと考えてるんだね。すごいよ、タッキー。だけどあたしさ、これ以上タッキーとあの女が同じ部屋にいるのは嫌だな。
As much as I hated to admit it, as long as I was tied up, it was entirely dependent on Yua, or I was entirely dependent on Yua to survive. Luckily, she hadn't been violent with me at all yet. She'd even cooked for me and let me use the bathroom whenever I asked. She was still treating me like a human being. Kinda. Huge kinda there. And I was sure that once she finally understood that no matter how long she waited, Shogun wouldn't come out and she would let me go. Hell, even better, I was sure that she would beg me for forgiveness. Of course, I'd make her get down on her hands and knees and what else, what would be the point? Yeah, there we go. And while we're at it, I could accidentally, no. And then it'd all be forgiven. Yua would go back to her own life and I'd go on with mine, and she would never see me again and I'd never see her again. So at the very least, the Yua threat would disappear completely. Or if I was very lucky, there was even a chance that she would have a change of heart and end up joining my party. Shogun was still real and very much a problem, so Yua could step up and replace Rimi as my protector. It'd be it'd be better than nothing. We even had some common ground. Above all else, Yua resented the NewGen culprit, and therefore Shogun. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Yua's interests and mine coincided.
僕って頭良くね、天才じゃね。
Right.
タッキーってば天才。私さ、ますますタッキーのこと好きになっちゃった。
And so I decided to ride the storm out. I don't think there's anything else we could do. Like, escape doesn't seem to be an option. Convincing her, I think, is the only other. Okay, where the hell was she? Yua still hadn't shown any signs of coming back. It had been a good while since she had left, too, and I knew for a fact that at least a few hours had passed, probably. Where in the world had she gone? Sure as hell wasn't the toilet. I could also rule out that she'd been grabbing dinner, since there was no way it would have taken this long. Every time that she had gone out to buy us food, she just went to the nearest supermarket and came back shortly after. So where was she? Had she gone to school? I didn't even know what time it was right now, but if it was around noon, then it was certainly a possibility. If I could have just looked at the minimum attendance chart, then I would have been able to know what day it was instantly. It would have told me a lot, really. For example, if Yua had kept me locked up for 3 days straight, and the first day had been Friday, that would explain why she had been able to stay here and not go to school. Because it had been the weekend. In other words, today was Monday, and Yua had gone to school. That had to be it. It had to. What day had it been when Yua had broken into my room again? My consciousness was already foggy as all hell, so I couldn't remember clearly. But what if she hadn't gone to school? What if she had gone back home, for example? These days, every slut in high school would stay out overnight without asking their parents, but Yua wasn't like that. Even if she had gotten permission, staying over at my place for who knows how many nights would have definitely made her parents worry. So knowing that, she'd gone back home in order to pacify them. Probably. That made a lot of sense, actually. Well, regardless of where she had gone off to, she had to come back eventually. So it'd be in my best interest to stay put and conserve my energy. Letting out a small sigh, I closed my eyes. Might as well get some sleep. Again, this really just feels like it's dragging, and it's not a fault of the game, it's just how things are. Whenever I was recording Amatsutsumi, there was a portion of the game where it just kind of felt like we were trapped. Not physically in a room like this, but the main character was kind of trapped in a very similar way. And that shit just dragged on. I couldn't sleep. I closed my eyes and tried my hardest to doze off for hours on end, but I just couldn't manage to. I ended up just staring at the door, torturing myself over whether or not Yua would come back. There was a bit of a windstorm going on outside, so the door rattled faintly every once in a while. Whenever it did, I would immediately open my eyes, thinking that Yua had come back. But no matter how many times I thought that, she still hadn't. I was left all alone in this container, tied up like an animal. Since she was taking her sweet time, I decided I might as well try to break out of the restraints on my wrists. The rope that bound me to the leg of my bed was made of nylon, which was why I thought maybe with enough force I could break free. And so I poured all my strength into my arms. I don't think so, buddy. I just don't think so. But it was no use. The rope didn't even budge. Or maybe I was just too weak. After all, I was a pretty big weakling in general, an otaku freak that did nothing but played video. But what? Huh? But play video and surf the web all day long? Okay. There was no way I could have broken that cord like some kind of movie protagonist. Was that supposed to be saying video games? I don't know. Okay. Tearing the cord with just arm strength alone was obviously impossible, so I tried to think of some other way. Obviously, it would have been really easy if I had a knife or something, but unfortunately, I had no such luck. The only things I could see around me were magazines, mangas, CDs, empty boxed lunches, that kind of stuff.
ダメだ。
I was hopeless. I couldn't even snap a single piece of nylon string on my own.
ユアは戻ってくるよね。
I unintentionally voiced those thoughts out loud, meaning I was basically talking to myself.
ねえねえタッキー、もしかしてさ、見捨てられたんじゃない？
Abandon me? As in Yua had left me here to rot? As in she wasn't planning on coming back? If that was all true, I was screwed. Surely she hadn't just tied me up and expected me to survive on my own, right? If you're gonna lock someone up, then you should realize you're responsible for them until you can let them go. Come on, that was just common sense. No, she couldn't have abandoned me. I was overthinking it. Yua was definitely going to come back. She still hadn't uncovered Shogun's true identity, so surely she wouldn't give up yet. Yua would never abandon me. This is fine.
知ってる？そういうのってさ、ストックホルム症候群って言うんよ。
Yes, I obviously know what Stockholm Syndrome is. But you're wrong. This isn't like that. My brain isn't dependent on Yua or anything. As if I would ever warm up to that mental case, let alone fall for her.
僕もつい最近、ナナミのことがあったから、ユアの気持ちはわからなくはないとかって脳内で妄想してなかったっけ？
Was I lying to myself? Was I just forcing myself to believe that I could trust Yua? Maybe I was. The Stockholm Syndrome was a psychological phenomenon in which people deceive their own selves for the sake of survival. But what else could I do in this situation? I had no other choice. I had to rely on Yua. Rimi had backed out, and Nanami hadn't come to check on me for a long time now. My parents let me know when they were worried about me via Nanami, but they never actually checked on me personally, and there's a reason why. And the only other person that knew I lived in this container was Yua. Which meant the only person I could rely on was also Yua. Therefore, I had to lie to myself. It was the only way I could survive. I didn't want to die, I didn't want Yua to mistreat me, and I didn't have the courage to resist her using force. So that was why I decided to just submit. I wouldn't resist, and then if I waited long enough, eventually she would understand. That was the only way an otaku freak like me would be able to survive. I would trust in Yua, I would trust in her by lying to myself, and then I'd make it out of this without anyone getting hurt.
あんなストーカーメガネ女を信じちゃダメだよ。タッキーゆとりすぎ。
For the first time in my life, I completely ignored what Seraton had to say. So please, come back soon, Yua. You're coming back, right? Well, somebody's... Oh, yep. There she is. And then it happened. Without warning, the door burst open, and it caught me completely by surprise, and I immediately froze. I could finally see outside. The sky was dyed orange by the setting sun, and there obstructing my view of it was Yua. I was relieved from the bottom of my heart to see her there. Realizing that I hadn't been abandoned nearly made me cry tears of joy. I was a little disgusted with how easily I'd been tamed, but my disgust was immediately overshadowed by the intense feeling of relief.
おかえり。
I had no one else, so I was forced to be dependent on her. That was why something so fucking stupid had somehow come out of my mouth. But... Uh-oh.
あなた、邪魔だわ、西条くん。
Thank you.
え？
I've never been told such a thing. Yua quickly walked over to me, crouched down to meet me at eye level, and then she grabbed my hair and yanked on it hard.
邪魔なの。あなたがいなければ将軍は出てくるはずなのに、なんでいるの？自重してよ。少し引っ込んでよ。あなたと話しても意味ないの。私はあなたと話したいんじゃない。出して。将軍を出しなさいよ。
Yua was acting weird. Was she getting impatient because Shogun wouldn't come out? Did that mean that she was going to resort to more drastic measures? This wasn't what I had planned. I believed in her. I had trusted that she wouldn't go berserk on me. Was she about to betray me again? Who am I kidding? The only one who feels betrayed, or I'm the only one that feels betrayed, yeah. I was forced to face reality. I had decided to place my trust in Yua all on my own. She had never asked me to, not once. Had I just been naive? It was because I was an otaku freak, and the shut-in too, wasn't I? I knew pretty much nothing about human interaction because of those things, so tricking me was like taking candy from a baby. If I was right about this, then I'd have been right about everything. Nothing good can come from 3D. It was time for me to become a real shut-in, but this time I'd locked myself in the 2D world.
見て。
Yua thrusted something in front of my face. It was a notebook of some kind.
妹の日記です。家に戻って取ってきたんです。これを読んであなたは知るべきです。妹は、ミヤちゃんは、集団ダイブが起きるもっと前からあなたに、いえ、将軍に狙われていたんです。
Even since before?
ストーカーされていたんですよ。だから集団ダイブは5人を殺すのが目的だったんじゃない。他の4人は巻き添え。狙いはミヤちゃん1人だった。
But why?
そうでしょう。そうよね、将軍。答えて。出てきて答えなさい。
Yua's voice was getting more and more hysterical. My fear of her had come back full force. My heart was beating out of my chest. My entire body trembled. But even so, I still couldn't accept what Yua was accusing me of. It was just a bunch of delusions that she had come up with. Nothing but pure falsehoods. I had never even met Yua's sister. I desperately shook my head from side to side, but she grabbed my hair so tight, the pain kept me from moving very much.
まだ出てこないつもりですか?
Yua's face drew even closer, close enough to whisper in my ear. And then she brought the diary even closer to my face.
見て。ミヤちゃんの苦しみを見なさい。
That says Yua's diary. Oh boy. She forced me to look up, and then while still holding the diary with one hand, Yua started dexterously turning the pages. And what I saw written there sent a chill down my spine. Yeah, that's pretty problematic. What is this? What the hell is this?
日記の最後のページ。ミヤの最後に書き残した。その誰の日付は9月6日。集団ダイブでミヤが殺された前日です。
将軍だ。あいつに思考盗撮されてたんだ。
思考盗撮って何？違うでしょ。違うわ。ストーカーされていたんです。将軍に、あなたに。
僕は将軍じゃ。
あなたの中にいる将軍にです。
だから言ってるじゃないか。将軍は他にいるんだ。
将軍は西条匠です。言い逃れしないで。その目誰の目というあなたが昔書いた作文がその証拠です。他にもいくつもの状況証拠がある。あなたしか考えられないの。考えられないのよ。あなたじゃなきゃおかしい。妹はあなたに殺された。
That's not true. That's not true at all. I don't sleepwalk, and I don't have multiple personalities either. Shogun does exist, but he isn't me. He's someone else, I swear.
どう思う?
Also, this isn't Yua. All along, this has been Mia, huh? This has actually been the younger sister. But how?
この日記を見てどう思うの？ミアを追い詰めて殺して満足？こんな日記を書かせるぐらい追い詰めて満足？どうしてミアにこんなひどいことをしたの？どうしてミアを殺したの？どうして？
ユアは間違ってる。
Everything you say is wrong.
間違ってるのはあなたよ。あなたは人を殺した。殺したじゃない。人殺し。
だってこの日記はユアの日記じゃないか。
なんです？
Yua looked puzzled. It had stuck out to me like a sore thumb ever since I'd first seen it. What was written on the front cover? Yeah, I mean, come on. Yua's diary. At first I thought I was just mistaken or something, but Yua had said exactly whose diary she thought it was.
妹の日記です。
But if it was her sister's diary, shouldn't it have said Mia's diary?
これはユアの日記だ。表紙にそう書いてある。
何言ってるの？
Yua deliberately avoided looking at the front cover.
これはミアちゃんのよ。死んだミアちゃんの日記。あなたに殺されたミアちゃんの。ミアちゃんのなのよ。ミアちゃんが書いた。死ぬ前に書いたの。
だったら表紙を見てよ。
Terrified, I nervously pointed at the notebook. Without showing a hint of hesitation, Yua closed it and took a look at the cover. And when she did, she turned back toward me and said,
やっぱりミアちゃんの日記だわ。
So she's not seeing the name Yua, she's seeing the name Mia. Her brain is tricking her. Huh? She must have seen it just now. There was no way she hadn't. Yua's diary was right there, written in bright red marker. So how had she...
これはミアちゃんが書いた日記。私を騙そうとしたの。騙されるわけないでしょ。私はミアちゃんとずっと一緒に育ってきたんだから。生まれてからずっと一緒だったんだから。あなたなんかよりずっと、私の方がミアちゃんのことを知ってる。知ってるの。
ユアには見えないの。はっきり書いてあるじゃないか。それはユアの日記。
Yua's hands suddenly shot up to her temples. Her face was warped in pain.
違う。この日記は私じゃなくて、ミアちゃんが、西条くんに自覚があるはずないから。あなたは DID 多重人格なんです。
君は誰だ？
私は
Could it be that I'd never been the one with DID? It had been Yua all along?
楠木ミアなんて実在するの？
Oh. Wait, no, she does. She does exist. Because why would the police have gone to... Unless... No, there were 5 corpses. There were 5 corpses. No. There's definitely twin sisters here. There has to be. Had the police ever officially announced the identities of the group dive victims? Since she was a minor, they would have just called her Girl A or something, right? Or...
ユアに双子の妹なんて本当にいたの？
While it was certainly possible that someone named Kusunoki Miya had existed and died in the group dive, it was also possible they were completely unrelated to Kusunoki Yua, the person standing in front of me right now. They could have simply been someone with an extremely similar name.
いるわ。
Suddenly, Yua wrapped her hands around my neck. Her fingers were oh so slender, and yet they harbored a terrifying amount of strength within them. I couldn't breathe.
いたわよ。ミアちゃんは確かにいた。 はっきり覚えてるもの。
証明できるの？
Yua's grasp weakened.
自分は DID じゃないって証明できるの？楠木宮じゃないって証明できるの？
I, for one, couldn't prove that I wasn't my alter ego. After all, the only one to prove that I wasn't, or the only way to prove that I wasn't Shogun would have been for him to show up next to me.
できるわ。
Yua took her hands off my neck. She let the notebook fall to the floor.
みやちゃんにはほくろがあった。
Yua slowly began to remove her uniform's top.
左胸の下、そこにほくろがあった。私にはないほくろ。
She unbuttoned her blouse one button at a time, her hands trembling impatiently as she did. Well, there's a mole there, among other things. But she didn't stop there. She went on to remove her bra too. Her fairly voluptuous breasts were covered only by her hands. She fumbled around, searching for a certain spot on her skin. I searched too with my eyes, and just under her left breast was a mole.
ある。
あるよ。
どうして？私にはほくろはないはずなのに。私、誰？
Yua's face grew pale as a ghost, and her lips trembled in fear. Her eyes swam in place, gazing into the abyss as she wrapped her arms around herself. She didn't even care that she was still half naked.
私はユア。私はずっといい子で、ミヤちゃんはずっと悪い子で、私はずっといい子になりたくて、ミヤちゃんはユアちゃんが大好きで、ユアちゃんはミヤちゃんが心配で。
Her ramblings gradually turned even more incoherent. I was pretty freaked out. But I knew I couldn't just abandon her and make a run for it. I knew full well exactly what mental state she was in, because I, until only a moment ago, had been in the same exact one. From the moment Yua had told me I had DID, I'd been suffering from non-stop anxiety, instability, so I really did understand. I knew what it was like to feel like your entire existence was one step away from crumbling to dust. I didn't know if she was suffering from DID, or if it was something else entirely. But what I did know was that there was something wrong with her, and there always had been. I knew people could be two-faced, but she was far, far too good at it. It was still hard to believe that she had been acting when we first met. Yeah, you know what? She was acting kinda in the get-go. It is a little sus, you know, how well everything was there, because there was no hint of malice from the get-go. Truly. The difference between her back then and her when she snapped like... wait, hold on. The difference between her back then and her when she snapped was like night and day. There we go. A little confused there. She was so much so that it didn't even feel like the same person.
ユアは DID なんじゃ。
違う。ちゃんといた。ちゃんといたの。ミヤちゃんはちゃんといた。
Still covering her breasts with one arm, Yua fished for something in the top that she had just taken off. She then took out her phone, hit a few buttons, and then showed it to me.
見て。ここにいるでしょ。私たちがいるでしょ。
Yeah, there's two people, but... So two people actually existed, but I think the other one is gone. Yua is who's gone. Mia is here. She did exist. There were definitely two people on the screen there, and the image didn't look edited either. The two looked eerily similar in that picture, although they were twins. The only difference was that one had glasses and the other didn't, and even their hairstyle was the same.
私はここにいる。
君はどっちなんだ。
私は。
She pointed to the one on the... Oh. Third melt? Right at that moment, the floor started shaking violently. An earthquake? It's even bigger than the last one. I was struck with a violent ringing in my ears. It was such an intensely shrill, resonant sound. My head felt like it was about to burst open. Yua grabbed her head and fell to her knees. I wanted to do the same, but my hands were tied up, so I couldn't. I felt like my ears were being pierced by thousands upon thousands of needles. And then... we definitely spent way too much time here. Way too much time. Sorry. I was looking at my phone for a moment. I was hit by an enormous impact, and a blinding light dyed my vision completely white. My phone caught my attention, and I was gone. Well, what's gonna happen now?
あの日、私たちは入れ替わった。
Okay. At the Shibuya McDonald's, a large wave of students arrived as soon as evening hit. I could hear the high-pitched voices of high school girls joyfully chatting away with one another, and I took a moment to look out the window, and then I took out my phone. It was now 5:02 p.m. on September 7th, 2 minutes past the time she was supposed to be here. I took a bite out of my chicken sandwich, feeling a bit annoyed.
ごめん、みやちゃん。待たせちゃった？
Yua-chan appeared, tray in hand, and sat down in front of me. I let out a small sigh.
うん、待った。5分くらいおまけしてほしいな。あ、みやちゃんもチキンバーガー？私もだよ。
She pointed to the chicken sandwich on her tray. The two of us were twins, so it was only natural that we'd have the same preferences. She really didn't need to point that out every little time that we had something in common, but she happily did so anyway.
みやちゃんとこうして渋谷で会うのって初めてだよね。
Excuse me, I was getting a drink. I didn't go to Shibuya, or school in Shibuya, and the two of us saw each other at home all the time. So we just didn't have many reasons or opportunities to meet up in Shibuya. That was all there was to it.
私にお願いしたいことって何？私にできることなら何でも言ってね。
I took the last bite of my chicken sandwich, sipped some of my iced tea, and then I leaned toward Yua-chan.
実はこれから人と会うんだけど、彼氏？そんなんじゃない。今まで一度も会ったことない人たち。タッチって何人？4人かな。どういう関係なの？ネットで知り合った人。別にやましい関係とかじゃないから。アニメのファンサイトみたいな掲示板があるんだけど、そこで。
I would say that's pretty damn shady.
へ
But that's just me.
私、インターネットなんて全くやらないからよくわからないけど、そうやってネットで知り合うことってよくあるの？まあね。でも、オフ会は私も初めてで。みえちゃん、人見知りだもんね。人見知りじゃない。人に合わすのが苦手なだけ。そういうことにしておいてあげる。で、大丈夫なの？初めての人たち相手にうまく話せそう？本当は会おうと思ってたんだけど、今になってやっぱり怖くなっちゃったんだ。めんどくさくなっただけ。でもドタキャンするのも悪いし、だから私が代わりに行けばいいのね。
Yua-chan was really perceptive. She understood what I was trying to say before I even finished my sentence. Usually that was more annoying than it was helpful, but this time I was glad that I didn't have to explain everything.
そういうこと。お願いしていい？別にいいけど、みやちゃんはそれでいいの？友達を作れるチャンスなのに。そんな小学生みたいな扱いしないでよ。別に友達を作りたいわけじゃないし。もう、みやちゃんは本当に意地っ張りなんだから。言ってくれる？わかった。私は楠木みやになりきればいいのよね。そこまでしなくてもいいけど。どうせならとことんやった方が面白いじゃない。そうだ、制服も入れ替えようよ。なんでそんなにはしゃいでるの？みやちゃんから頼み事されるなんてめったにないでしょ。だから嬉しいの。ゆあちゃん、バカみたい。どうせバカなお姉さんですよーだ。ほら、そうと決まれば着替えちゃおうよ。
Yua-chan forcefully pulled me by the hand. This is a certified Higurashi moment. We went into the private bathroom, and after a couple minutes, we swapped all clothing and personal effects.
みやちゃん、水明の制服似合うね。きっとお父さんやお母さんでもどっちがどっちなのか見分けつかないよ。あ、でもメガネかけてたら一発でバレちゃうかな。これも外して行くのはちょっと難しいかも。何も見えなくなっちゃう。初対面の相手なんだからここまでしなくてもよかったのに。もうまだ言ってるし、待ち合わせの時間そろそろなんでしょ。それまで打ち合わせしておこうよ。私アニメのことちっともわからないけど、何を話せばいいの？適当に相槌打ってればいいよ。どうせ一回こっきりしか会わない人たちなんだし。そんなことないよ。この出会いを通してお友達付き合いすることになるかもしれないでしょ。もしかしたら彼氏もできちゃうかも。興味ない。あるくせに。なかったら会う約束なんてしないもの。うるさいな。頑張って楠木美也はとってもいい子ですっていうのを印象づけてくるね。本当にそういうのはいいってば。
If she did that, it'd be even harder for me to go the second time. I just wasn't as sociable as she was. Wow. I can't believe it was as simple as
それじゃ
this. A
行ってく
swap.
るね。よろしく。そこまで頑張らなくていいから。はいはい。じゃあね、みやちゃん。
I mean, I want to say that this is pretty simple. Yua's actually the one who dies here. The death is actually what scars Mia, and that trauma pushes her to have multiple personality disorder, or at least to lose her identity of self. She thinks that she's Yua and even takes up her personality. Yua-chan smiled and waved goodbye, wearing my uniform, holding my bag. And then she disappeared into the crowds of Shibuya as none other than Kusunoki Mia. And that's that. That had been the last time I'd ever seen Yua-chan. I then had gone home, waited for her to come back, only to see that case on the news. Yeah, it's all coming together now. I get it. Rip the container house, per usual. When I came to, my headache was so bad, it felt like it was splitting in two. The first thing I realized was that I was pinned under my bed. The second was that the bed had fallen on top of me. So not only was my head about to burst from the pain, but my back was too under the weight of the bed. The only thing I could move were my eyes, which allowed me to witness the sheer devastation of my room. Yua was slumped against the wall, staring off in a daze. She'd been half naked before the earthquake hit, but it seemed like she'd put her clothes back on. Yeah, the earthquake helped her. Before she had been completely topless while also keeping her glasses on, which had honestly brought some life back into me. But now her glasses had fallen to her feet, the lenses were cracked.
助けて。紐ほどいてよ。
It took nearly everything in me, but I managed to fight through the headache and call out to Yua. And with the most empty eyes, she looked at me.
思い出したの。
Literally, who cares? I don't give a shit about what you remember. Just untie me already. I can't move under this thing.
思い出したのよ。
Yua slowly got up and easily untied the tight knot. Almost too easily, in fact, considering how dark it was and how she wasn't wearing her glasses. Finally, a free man, I managed to slip out from under the bed. But that was about as far as I went. My head felt as if it was being cracked open, just like it had during the previous earthquakes. Even standing up felt impossible, so I endured the pain on all fours.
ゆあちゃんだったのよ。
Yua was once again mumbling something in a low voice.
集団ダイブで死んだのはミヤじゃない。ゆあちゃんだった。
ユア、何を。
私はゆあじゃない。
A wry smile spread across Yua's lips.
私はミヤよ。自分をゆあちゃんだって思い込んでただけ。あの日私たちは入れ替わったの。それでゆあちゃんは死んだ。本当は 死ぬはずだったのに。
I mean, I can understand how that could be traumatic. It makes a lot of sense. Suddenly, the expression on Yua's face disappeared, complimenting the empty eyes that had yet to leave her, and then she extended her hand toward me.
西条くん、もう将軍のことなんてどうでもよくなっちゃった。結局ユアちゃんは私が死なせたようなものだから。ねえ、一緒に来てほしい。
どこへ？
ユアちゃんが死んだ場所。一緒に来てくれるだけでいい。お願い。
I didn't know why exactly she was asking me this, but I had an idea. An idea that soon became a realization. Mia was planning to die. I had no idea whether or not I should stop her. It was probably too late for me to say anything that might reach her. And so I took Mia's hand and went to pull myself up. I felt a stabbing pain in my head. I pictured my eyes being dyed a scarlet red. The throbbing pulsation of my blood vessels inside my head reverberated throughout my entire body. It hurt too much to move. I didn't have the strength.
歩ける？
Mia supported my body with her shoulder.
歩いてくれないと困るわ。一緒に来てほしいの。私を助けると思って。お願い。
Oh, there's no saving you. You've got too many mental problems. Definitely not able to save you. But now we can see some lovely damage that's going on here in the real world. With my body supported by Mia, the two of us began walking in the direction of Shibuya. Shibuya had transformed into a city of death. Everywhere you looked, corpses were strewn across the ground. Some were covered in blood, some had their limbs severed, and some had their heads crushed. Not even a shred of human dignity could be seen in the absolute hellscape spread out before you. Or before us, excuse me. Not a single glimmer of the city's former glory remained. The only things it held now were death, ash, and despair, nothing more. Huge cracks tore through the roads, large scars indicative of how it could all come crashing down at any moment. Huge chunks of debris had fallen from the crumbling buildings, blocking our way. It was difficult to even walk in a straight line. But none of that was enough to make us lose focus of our goal. Mia and I marched on, completely disregarding the cries for help around us. Our destination was the building towering above in the distance, Cornelius Tower. The tower was still standing. The outer walls were crumbling, goddamn, in certain spots. I guess I can't read anymore, sorry guys. But the structure itself had more or less tanked the earthquake. It still stood straight and tall. As far as we could tell from the outside, it seemed that the lights were off on every floor. Maybe everyone had evacuated, leaving the building vacant and abandoned. So what's our plan here? Naturally, the lobby was completely empty. There didn't seem to be any electricity either, so the elevator didn't work. Our only option to get to the rooftop would be the emergency stairs. I'm gonna climb all the way up. When the details behind the group dive case had appeared online, I had done a little digging into the building. Cornelius Tower stood at 184 meters tall, with 41 floors above ground. There was absolutely no way I could climb that many floors. Not when I couldn't even walk straight with this headache. And yet Mia kept on supporting me. Leaning on her, we climbed the stairs step by step, sweat dripping down our foreheads.
お父さんとお母さんは私が自分のことをユアちゃんだって言い出して気を使ってくれたんだと思う。
Or, that's actually what you heard. You probably were being called Mia by a lot of people, but you perceived it as Yua.
私をユアとして扱ってミアが死んだことにしたのかも。
She was talking to herself. I listened along in silence. Well, she probably didn't need me to listen. She was just talking aloud, and I happened to be there.
昔からそうだった。私は生意気な娘だったから。両親はいつも私を腫れ物にでも触るかのように扱ったわ。ミアを死んだことにするなんてね。親はユアちゃんよりミアに死んでほしかったのかもしれない。それも全部 私のせいだけど。自分がユアちゃんだと思い込んだ。私のせいよ。ユアちゃんが死んだみたいに。私も死ねばいいのよ。
ユアは、どんな人だったの？
憧れ、だった。羨ましかった。たまにイラついたりしたけど、嫌いじゃなかった。むしろ、大好きだった。ユアちゃんのこと、大好きだった。私のことを分かってくれる、たった一人の、かけがえのない人だったもの。ユアちゃんが笑顔でいてくれれば、私はどんなに辛いことがあっても嬉しかった。いつも私のこと心配してくれたわ。心配させてるのが申し訳なくて、私はつい冷たく接してた。それなのに、いつも優しくて。ユアちゃん。
Mia kept climbing the stairs, tears gently streaming down her face. Were they tears of regret, tears of sorrow, or tears of guilt? That I couldn't tell. The wind was stronger than I thought it would be on the helipad. A panorama, of Shibuya's nightscape spread out right before our eyes, but now its former brilliance was nowhere to be found. The city had been fully engulfed in darkness. One could just barely make out landmarks like Tokyo Tower, Roppongi Bills, or other buildings situated in Shinjuku in the distance. The Shibuya beneath our feet was veiled in complete and utter silence. There was very little light, allowing darkness complete reign over the ruined city. If it were noon, then Shibuya's new form would be nothing less than stupefying.
西条くん。もしよかったら。
Mia gently let me go, retracting the arm that had been supporting me. I immediately sank down to the ground, not a single ounce of energy left in my legs.
一緒に飛んでくれない？
Mia stared deep into the dark night. Fierce gusts of wind sent her long hair fluttering in the sky, hiding her expression from view. That was when I realized Mia had come here to jump, to follow in her sister's footsteps. With that in mind, my answer was clear.
やだね。僕は死にたくない。なんで僕を監禁した女と心中しなくちゃいけないんだ。
そう言うと思った。
One step at a time, Mia walked toward the edge of the heliport, facing the strong wind head on.
そうそう。西条くんと予約しに行ったセイラちゃんのフィギュア。
Suddenly, she stopped and turned around.
ちゃんと買ったのよ。とても可愛くてセクシーだね。すっかり気に入っちゃって、私の部屋の机の上に飾ってあるの。
A transient smile spread over Mia's lips. Of all times for her to have to say that, why now?
そんなこと言っても、僕は君に同情しない。
同情なんて求めてないわ。それじゃ、さよなら、西条くん。私を殺した人、私もユアちゃんのところに行くね。
Well, this is a very depressing one. Are we done? What Nishijo-kun had just said was very reasonable when we switched perspectives here. It was strange, though. It had made me feel lonely. There was this heart-rending pain in my chest. In the end, I had never been afforded the opportunity to confirm whether or not he was Shogun. Maybe he had been telling the truth and I was the one who'd gotten it all wrong. But even if I wasn't wrong, well, there was no point in holding a grudge against him now. If only I hadn't asked Yuwa-chan to switch places with me back then. If only I had just gone to the offline meet myself, then Yuwa-chan would still be alive. Well, I don't know. Yuwa seemed pretty, I don't know. There's something that I worry about, and I feel like Yuwa had a connection with the church. For her to have written what she did in her diary, but to not be connected to this group of people, I felt like she was going to help orchestrate the group dive, not participate in it. But that didn't happen. I don't know. No, that wouldn't make sense either. I don't know. It's odd. Maybe she knew that it was going to happen and she did it to save her sister? Let's go with that one. That one seems nicer. So she knew what that was going to be. It was going to be the first NewGen incident. So she actually swapped places with her sister knowingly, maybe? That's what that was? Yuwa-chan hadn't deserved to die. She had so many friends. God damn it. I really hate these sentences. Our parents had loved her more than anything, and she'd been the smartest, most beautiful girl I'd ever met. And yet she had died anyway. Kusunoki Yua had died anyway. And when she had, Kusunoki Miya had disappeared along with her. She'd vanished into thin air, becoming a ghost. That was the choice I had made back then. I could no longer tell whether I was alive or dead. All I knew was that Yuwa-chan wasn't here anymore, so I'd rather be dead. I stood at the edge of the helipad, where Yuwa-chan and the other four had jumped off that night. Looking down made me feel dizzy. The whole nightscape was pitch black. All the lights in the city had gone out, and yet, even in the darkness, I could still tell just how high up I really was. I wondered how Yuwa-chan had felt when she jumped off of here. Maybe she had probably been terrified. I'm sorry, Yuwa-chan. I'm sorry you had to go through something so terrifying because of me. I'll be going too very soon. I will take the pain that you endured, the pain that I alone was supposed to feel, and engrave it onto my body, Yuwa-chan. I took a deep breath. My heart and mind were at peace. I wasn't afraid of dying. I spread my wings. My arms lay in the empty air. I closed my eyes. And then I stepped forward into the bottomless abyss before me. And with nothing there to support me anymore, I fell. My whole world turned upside down. There was nothing left to chain me back. Even though I was in free fall, it almost felt like I was floating amid the rumbling of the wind. The ground was rushing toward me, the very same asphalt that Yuwa-chan had crashed into 2 months ago. The hardened tar that had crushed her bones, ruptured her organs, and sprayed her blood and gray matter across itself. I don't want to die. Just a moment ago, I hadn't been afraid to die, but the second I had lost control of my body, I'd been overcome with a tremendous sense of dread. I don't want to die. Even if Yuwa-chan had died, I still wanted to live. This was just my survival instincts taking over. I screamed. I screamed from the bottom of my soul. I desperately reached out my hand to the distant night sky above me. I knew there was no one that could grab onto it, but I reached out all the same. There was no end to my screams. I pleaded. I don't want to die. But nobody heard me. Nobody grabbed my hand. I simply fell, with the earth coming closer and closer. Splat? Yeah. Was that a delusion? Was that a delusion? I had felt my body shatter into a million pieces, but that feeling had disappeared soon after. When I came to, I found myself collapsed on the roof of Cornelius Tower. Nishijo-kun was right in front of me. He still wasn't looking at me, but he was reaching his hand out even so. I had definitely jumped. No doubt about it, I had definitely taken that nearly 180-meter dive and smashed right into the ground. But now I just sat there staring at Nishijo-kun's hand, utterly dumbfounded. I even forgot to wipe away the tears streaming down my face. Nishijo-kun's words were blunt and curt.
君に死なれるのは困るんだ。まるで僕が突き落としたみたいじゃないか。僕は殺人犯扱いされたくないね。
私、落ちたのに、自分で飛び降りたのに。
妄想でも見てたんじゃない。
A delusion? You're telling me all those sensations, all that pain was just a delusion? That's impossible. It felt so real.
ねえ、西條くん、ゆあちゃんは あんな痛い思いをして死んだんだね。なのに、私、ゆあちゃんと同じ痛みを味わおうとしたのに、私は死にたくないって思っちゃったの。本来死ぬのは私だったのに、死にたくないって、もう飛べない。あの痛みを知ってしまったら、もう怖くて飛べない。私、どうすればいいのか。
今ので君は一度死んだ。ユアの痛みを知ったならもうそれでいいじゃないか。これからはもう一度楠木宮として一から生きていけばいいと思う。ユアの分まで。
ありがとう。ありがとう。
I reached out for the hand that he had extended out to me and took it. It was so very, very warm. I could feel his body heat through his palm. A warmth so comforting I felt my hand stop shaking. Oh, and that's the end? Oh, this was a weird one. This was a weird one. Kind of hard to get through, too. Because, again, we were, like, trapped for the majority of it. And it just kind of slogged. I don't know, I like it when things move along, like, physically. Scenes are continuing onward. There's some form of progression, let's go with that. Alas, there wasn't too much there. It was just us being imprisoned for way too long. Wow, alright. And also, what a contrast to Nanami's route. That one, compared to this one, what a contrast. I don't know how to explain it. Oh, excuse me, but, like, that was just all a delusion that kind of showed that, like, hey, yeah, Takumi can be very, very much not wanting to, you know, progress, and would just, you know, stay to his delusions instead of facing the real world. And he would do that along with Nanami. He could actually put his trust into, well, his family, his sister. And that was enough for him. Well, we didn't learn anything about Nanami there. Just that, like, okay, once in a blue fucking moon, he's actually able to, like, deal with her. And that's it. But here, like, we didn't jump into a delusion. Instead, this was a whole different course of events that led us to learning about, well, I guess it's actually Mia, but we'll just say Yua. We'll continue to say Yua. This character. What a picture. It would have been crazy if there actually was only one person. I was gonna have my mind blown if they were gonna pull that shit. So that was Sun and Moon, but the achievement says Moon and Sun. So which is it? See, I don't know. It says Sun and Moon here, so that's what I'll go with, I suppose. Okay, I don't know who's next on our list here of recommended order. I guess I can look it up. So we just did Yua's. Oh. Man. Can we just, like, skip the next two? Can we just not do them and say we did? We have ISA's route next, and that's actually the one I'm looking forward to the least. Because who the fuck can even understand ISA? It's just gonna... God damn, it's gonna feel like a slog there too, probably. The one after that they're recommending is Kazoe's, so the Kozupi route, which maybe that one will be okay. Maybe. Maybe, just maybe. And then Senna's route, ooh, I'm looking forward to that, and Rimi's route. And I think we saw the questions there in the very beginning. The first delusion, if we hit positive, we kind of see a little bit into the future. We actually go to the alley and everything, but then a hand touches us and says, no, don't do it. don't you dare. And there were questions that popped up there, and yeah, those were Rimi's. Then after that, we can finally jump into the true ending, or whatever ending awaits for us at the very end of all these character routes. But we've got 4 more to go of the character routes, so we'll just keep on making progress. But I think going forward, we'll just be jumping straight into them, unless we find a new delusion somewhere. But we'll mostly just be jumping into the new character routes and getting whatever scenes that are new for each of these routes, or whoever character we're going for next, that they pop up through the common route. But I think we'll be good to just jump into the character routes. I don't think the neutral runs have too much to see whenever we get the delusion choice, so we'll just kind of speed through everything, and we'll be taking care of these character routes a lot more promptly. I think we're done with delusions for the most part. But thank you all for watching this episode. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, all that fancy jazz, and I will see you all in the next one. Take it easy.